Dr. Jazz.
Thanks for finding the time. Appreciate it.
Dr. Jazz.
Oh, my pleasure.
I was blown away by the new record. So, not nice to see again something that's being led by you or co-led in this case. R-
It's a
ra-
collaboration.
yeah, rare occasions when you're like a leader or co-leader, but those are special always. So, nice to hear that. Um, but I wanted to ask you first, like, what's your story with John? I mean, I know you did the Heard by Others, the first part, which was like 5 years ago, and how did you hook up with John? Because you have such an amazing chemistry
We
with.
were we were both on the faculty at New York University in the jazz department.
Oh, okay.
That's how we met. He played. I think the first time we played together, he played an ensemble rehearsal of mine. I had a Borneo horns ensemble that I was teaching there, and he came and played with us. And
Hmm.
then later, I joined the faculty ensemble with Dr. David Schroeder
Hmm.
um, and Rich Shamaria, and we got along really well in that situation, playing together. So we're also both, New Yorkers, or he's in Paris now, but
Yeah,
living in New York and dealing with all the exigencies that that has to offer.
true.
And we both have two children and a son, and both have one boy and one girl. And
Oh, okay.
so mine are all grown up. Mine
Yeah,
are
yeah, yeah.
39 and 45.
Ooh,
But
okay. That's my age. Well, I have a 2-year-old daughter, so uh,
yeah.
I'm kind of still in the beginning stage. But yeah, beautiful, man. How did you approach this record? I mean, there's a lot of overdubbing from your side, but did you play together, or did he first record stuff, or did
Um,
like?
well, the tracks that I provided were for the two compositions that are mine
Yeah.
were legacy tracks. In 1984, I recorded 8 saxophone quartets for a dance piece. I did the recordings in like 2 weeks for on an old Atari 8-track tape recorder with
Oh yeah.
a click track I generated with my EMU modular synthesizer, and I recorded the baritone, the alto, and the tenor and the soprano parts one at a time, and then redid them usually a couple of times until they felt like an ensemble. And it was used. The recording was used in a performance by Stephen Petronio, choreographer in New York City.
Mm.
But years later, I was going through my tapes and I thought, these are all going to disintegrate if I don't do something about it. So I had the tapes baked and transferred to 96 kilohertz audio files. And I sent him the individual audio files. He had been playing around with a Borneo Horns album recording. He put it in this sampler and was playing it back and editing it in real time. And I thought, well, this would be another opportunity to do something like that. So
Mm.
I sent him the tracks, and he cut them up in ways that made sense for his performance.
Mm.
And he had to adjust the time a lot of times because the analog oscillator from the
Yeah.
click track drifted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so it didn't lock up with this digital recording session. So and so we went back and forth on his improvisation. He played things and sent me the recordings, and I made suggestions, and he made changes, and redid some of the edits in different ways, subtly, not pretty much it's what his intent was.
Mm.
Then he sent me recordings of Jungle Room and Joshua Tree, and I recorded with my modular synthesizer. I recorded tracks on each of them, and then some saxophone tracks on Jungle Room.
Did you ever play this music live also now recently, or?
No, we haven't played it live. We have played other music live. We did some gigs some years ago in a club in New York. There's a YouTube video of us performing some of that.
Oh, okay, let's check it out.
But it was principally a saxophone and clarinet solos that I had come up with and pieces that he'd written, and we, that's part of the inspiration for the project, the first project. And the other aspect of the first project was where everybody was in lockdown for the COVID, and so it was a way for us to collaborate and do it long distance. He was in New York, I was in California at the time, and I'm out in California now.
Ah, really? I didn't know that. Okay. Fantastic. Beautiful. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about those compositions of yours. I mean, I listened to them, both dance music 5 and 8, and they're very dense. And how did you write those, or in general, how do you write? I mean, how did you come up with the ideas, and how did you develop the ideas? Because it's it's a lot of motion melodically and rhythmically as well.
There's, I started writing music originally at the piano, writing songs, and then I was frustrated by the problems with the recording world at the time. Getting into the studio was very difficult and expensive, and getting enough time to have the musicians learn the music was always difficult. And so I I thought of maybe I should record all the parts myself, and because there are examples of that, Stevie Wonder's records and other solo projects that people have been doing, and I thought, well, I should give myself a way to do that. And I had in the early time, I got a cassette player and was making demos with a Lyricon that the company had given me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working with a Lyricon, and I was a little disappointed in the variety of sounds you could get out of it. It was pretty much a pulse wave with a variable duty cycle from 90 to 50. So you could get like a square wave, and you could get a more narrow duty cycle, like approaching a sawtooth wave if you filtered it.
Yeah.
And had five low pass filters or band pass filters with variable resonance, but you couldn't change the frequency of the filters. They were fixed frequency, but you could change the octave of the oscillator and just change the relationship of the filters to the overtones, but it was very limited. So I had when Tower of Power was in the studio doing the Tower of Power record, the first album that I played on, we were in the studio at Wally Heider's in San Francisco, and Pat Gleason was working with Herbie Hancock at the time. It was downstairs in the other studio. I think they were recording Crescent, that album.
Mm-hmm.
So I met him there, and I remembered him a couple years later when I got the Lyricon, and I called him up and asked him if he could help me integrate my controller with a better with a more synthesizer with more possibilities. And so I went over to his studio, and he figured out a way to convert the voltage from the controller that I was using, and he's very good with electronics, and we played. I got the company to build me a box to separate the various transducer voltages, and we used his big EMU modular, and it was revelatory. but we were both sort of blown away by the possibilities of that. So he helped me acquire a modular synthesizer, and he helped me get an 8-track tape recorder.
Okay.
And I set up a studio and started recording demos of the songs I'd written, and then I got started to play around with the machine itself and recording overdubs of different instruments that I had, and I realized that I wasn't going to be able to replicate my results if I could notate the things. So I started notating the parts that I was playing. And a few years later, I moved to New York, and I brought my studio with me, and I was recording principally electronic music compositions, using tape the way a lot of other composers would use tape, editing it and razor blade edits and
Yeah.
and tape loops and that sort of thing, but with this notation aspect to it included. And I was happily doing that, I made a clarinet septet, a lot of septets, because I needed a track for a click track, and other pieces for theater pieces, for dance pieces. I knew a lot of people in experimental theater, and my wife was a dancer who danced in the company that did the first Einstein on the Beach dances.
Oh, okay.
And so I had met Philip Glass, and I knew a lot of the downtown composers that were here, and then I got to call. I was living in New York and having a hard time putting a livelihood together for my family, and I got an offer to go on the road again. So I went out with David Bowie for a year, and on that trip I didn't have a tape recorder to compose with, so I just started writing more on paper. And the only musicians who could read music and who were available were the saxophone players in the group. So during the lengthy sound checks, I would rehearse with them pieces that I'd written in my hotel room, pencil and paper, scores and parts. And when I got back to New York, we performed some of that music, and an opportunity came up to record, but I didn't have the money to hire musicians, so I used my tape recorder again, and that's how the piece that came about was.
Oh.
So it's a combination of electronic music ideas with notation, approach to the music.
Yeah, interesting.
In both those pieces, there's sections where there are overlapping various lengths of phrases.
Yeah.
So there's a 7-beat phrase and a 5-beat phrase and a 3-beat phrase, and they overlap and phase against one another at different phase relationships. Sort of like the "It's Gonna Rain" recording by Steve Reich.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's like phase, which is an idea that I had with the tape recorder, because it's something you can do with tape. You can phase different loops against each other, and
That's
so
cool.
that's sort of, it expanded from there. I've always been interested in music that is experimental, and I have a large collection of electronic music on vinyl.
Really interesting. Well,
Which was a thing back in the 60s and 70s. There wasn't any other form, so people would do these pieces on giant computers, and it would be on a vinyl record.
so bizarre. If you think about it now, now we have one laptop, and
Yeah.
it basically incorporates everything. It's
You don't
bizarre.
download anything; you just stream it, and
It's yeah. Even though they always sounds more romantic always when I think about it, like now it's too easy almost in a way. It's just
well,
I don't know.
yeah,
I don't appreciate it so much when it's just like I just do it because you can do it.
it offers different challenges.
Yeah.
it's easy to move your music around and have people hear it.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult back then to do it. The way that I got my first recording contract was through a cassette, recorded at a live gig, played back on a student radio station, overheard by a record producer who was interested in it. So the circuitous route to getting your music out there. Now you can upload it to
Yeah.
Bandcamp and it's done.
It's there. Yeah. So true. So true.
Not that anybody can find it.
That's a different story. Just getting it out, yeah, to people. That's nowadays. That's that's the trick.
Well, I was with Tower of Power. I was working during the time when you timed your tour for the record release, and you checked before you left for the road whether the rack jobbers had gotten your product on the shelves in the record stores. And then you did in-store record signings so that you could have people come down and buy the record.
Yeah.
And you timed your whole tour around the record company's delivery system, whether or not the product was in the stores or not.
Yeah.
It was a very different world.
Very different, yeah. Speaking of Tower of Power, I mean, I have those records back to Oakland and, Tower of Power and all that. And you were really young back then. And how did you guys start? And it went quite quickly for you guys, right?
Yeah, well, I joined the band after they had started. I didn't play on the first two records. There was a record on San Francisco label, and then there was a Warner Brothers record called Bump City that I didn't play on, but I played on the next 5 Warner Brothers records, and then the 3 Columbia records that we did, and a direct-to-disc album. And the band started as some kids. The first iteration of the band was Emilio Castillo, the band leader, the bass player Rocco Prestia, Mimi's brother, and a drummer named a guitar player named Jody, and they had a band called the Gotham City Crime Fighters, and they had a song called "Who Stole the Batmobile," and they grew from there and became something called the Motowns, because Emilio was from Detroit, and they did covers of soul music tunes that were on the radio at the time, and then Steve Kupka joined the band a little later than that, and brought along sort of a different attitude about original music, and they started collaborating on songwriting, but they were a local Bay Area band. They played the bars, and they played, there were some bars where you could play 8 sets a night, start at 8, finish at 4 in the morning, and they did that whole scene. And they were around during the same time Cy and the Family Stone was
Oh yeah.
it was the East Bay was I hate to use the cliche, but a melting pot of music and cultures, and it was a time of great foment in music. There was a lot of people came to the Bay Area in this middle and late '60s and brought music with them. I met and played with John Lee Hooker, and
Yeah, no, I wanted to ask you about all that. I mean, yeah.
so that was just because those people showed up. Tower did a record with Hawkins Family Singers, and I played a session once with Sly, and we opened for Sly, we opened for Santana, we opened for a lot of the Bay Area bands until we got big enough to headline, and it was a rather rapid ascent. In the Bay Area, we were so popular that during the fuel crisis in the '70s, there was a gas station owner who would open up his station so we could buy gas in the middle of the night. When I went to the bank, the head of the bank would come cash my check for me. So we were very popular. We were like the Beatles for a minute, but only in the Bay Area. You could go to Mission Boulevard, and which was like in the barrio in San Francisco, and on a Friday or Saturday night, you could hear lowriders playing our music out of their cassette machines in their cars, and it was pretty awesome.
Mm. Did you tour a lot then with the group as
We
well?
toured a lot. We the
Okay,
first year I was on the road about 180 days on the
jeez,
road.
man. Oh, okay. Right.
The
Okay.
first year we were out.
Insane.
We did 2 albums in that year, almost within 12 months or so, because there was a lot of demand for new product, and you needed a record to come out to support a tour. That was what the idea was. You do the record, you do a tour, you go back and do another record, do another tour.
Completely different. Yeah.
Very, very different, and it was the air travel was different. A lot of times we just would rent 3 sedans and put 12 people in the sedans and drive like 15 hours and do that kind of thing. It was an adventure. It was
Yeah.
a little bit like being on a pirate ship.
I can imagine actually. Yeah.
The promoters were all nascent. Many of them had not done very much promoting before, and we're just getting into the business. And the lighting companies and the sound companies were all ad hoc, just putting their gear together. And it was very early times in rock and roll touring world.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was fun, a lot of fun. We had a great time. It's something to do when you're young.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Did you guys also go to Europe in the 70s?
We did. We went to Europe once. We went to Europe once.
Yeah.
I think the horn section went back again to England and did some recording with Little Feat there. But we toured. We did a tour. Warner Brothers organized a tour that it was Little Feat, Graham Central Station, Tower of Power, Montrose, which was Ronnie Montrose's gig. It was Sammy Hagar leading, singing lead. Bonnaroo, which was an offshoot of the Doobie Brothers, and let's see, Little Feat. It was 6 bands, and
I know.
they booked a train, like a 3 or 4 car train. So it was a private train
Wow.
that took us, and we went to Munich, and we went to Frankfurt, we went to Paris, we went to Amsterdam, went to Brussels, like 6 or 8 cities, Manchester,
Interesting.
and it was fun. It was my first time overseas, so we went to Japan a few times and went to the Philippines,
Wow.
but most of our touring was in the States and Canada.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I thought so. It's like many bands are like in the States so huge, and in Europe, some I mean they are known obviously, but
Well, Tower of Power is, they continue touring, and I look at their schedule from time to time, and they seem to get over to Europe quite often.
yeah, yeah. Now the last 20 years, yeah,
They've been to tours, they do a lot of festivals and
yeah,
that
yeah,
sort of
yeah, yeah. Interesting. Besides doing all the Tower of Power gigs, you've done like hundreds of records. Like you mentioned John Lee Hooker and
Yeah.
I don't know Elton John and who's who in the 70s. Like how did that go? And just
Well,
because you were part of the horn section of Tower of Power, you guys
a lot
called
of
you?
those dates were horn section dates.
Okay.
A few of them were things where I was
Yeah.
called to do solos, but most of them were horn dates. We they were looking for bands were looking for a horns to augment their sound, and they could relate to us. It was easy. We were studio musicians in the sense that we were familiar with working in the studio, but we were rock and rollers,
Yeah, but you were, yeah.
and compatible with a lot of different acts from that standpoint. We could relate to them, and they could relate to us. We a lot of times we did it without a lot of written music. We would have sometimes we'd have charts, and sometimes we would do what they call head charts, and we were comfortable with that. If they didn't want us, if they didn't, most of the time Greg Adams would scratch out, pencil parts for arrangements that we would play in. But sometimes we would just get in the studio and we'd throw ideas around, and the acts that we were working with liked doing it that way because it gave them input into the process, and it was a very collaborative process. The studio is really great that way. You have to, the people on either side of the glass have to work together, and the recording engineers have to be able to understand what it is you're doing, and you have to be able to understand what they're doing, and the producers were often either engineers or players, and so they have a relationship to the process as well.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. It was it's not done that much that way anymore.
Yep.
But that was kind of what we were doing, was kind of how you did it at the time. But there weren't a lot of horn sections that were autonomous and that were the same membership all the time. And there was an advantage to that, and that we could use hand signals and shorthand for notation. Like if we saw 4/16 notes in a row, we were probably going da 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 da, instead of da 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 da, or da 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 da, and unless it was marked, we knew it. We knew what the phrase was going to be before, without a lot of conversation about it. And also we were tight. We phrased things together. We were familiar with each other's playing and phrased everything together. So it was an instantaneous ensemble sound. It wasn't like going over and over and over again things until it sounded right. We were getting things in one or two takes. And
that's why you got called, obviously. Right? Yeah, because it's like the Brecker brothers and all these guys on the same thing, kind of. Yeah,
same thing.
Interesting. How did that change for you? Like, if you go from the 70s to the 80s regarding technology and recording in the studio, like you did Madonna records and I don't know, David Bowie. Like, did that change a lot in the 80s, or?
Well, I took what I knew from playing with Tower Power. I was the arranger on a lot of those sessions, and the Talking Head sessions and the Laurie Anderson things, and I was familiar with what it was like. I had to notate things more carefully. I had some core musicians that I worked with as much as I could with the same people, but often people wouldn't be available, and you'd have to use a different group. But I hired a copyist, and which made it an easier process to get the music done. And once I'd done the Borneo Horns project, which was a lot of scoring for that. And I got hired by SNL to do charts for them. I was familiar with writing, certainly with writing charts for horn sections, but also for writing for rhythm sections as well. And I got acquainted with the recording scene here, mostly by reputation of what I'd done with Tower of Power. That was a big part of it, and also with the Bowie tour didn't hurt. It was a sort of high profile tour.
Oh yeah.
So,
how did you end up? Sorry, just to interrupt you. How did you end up on that Bowie tour? Actually,
it was an accident, as often it is. I ran into somebody who had turned the tour down, and he said I should call Nile Rodgers and talk to them about it. He gave me, or maybe he gave me the number of the manager, and I called him up. I can't remember exactly how that worked, but because of somebody who was too busy to take the tour and didn't want to go, and so and I knew one of the other saxophone players was somebody, Steve Elson, was somebody that I knew from junior high school in Berkeley. We grew up together, and so that didn't hurt. And I'd worked with Nile Rodgers on some Chic projects and things like that, so he put in a word for me as well. So it was good. That was a fun tour because we went all over the world. We went to Singapore and Hong Kong Bangkok and New Zealand and Australia and to all over Europe. Played some very interesting gigs.
Yeah, I mean, he was a huge superstar back then already, no?
Yeah, he was huge. He was.
Yeah.
You would the publicity department of his organization would would advance each gig, and you'd get to town, and all you'd see was his picture on the cover of all the local papers and magazines, and because you were insulated in this tour, you were traveling, and every place had already been advanced. You got the impression that he was the biggest thing that ever happened. It was a fun tour. There was a private air jet that he booked. He booked a 707, and we flew all over the world with this 707. And we would land like in a town, and the cars would meet us out on the tarmac, and we would walk down the ramp and into our cars.
Insane, yeah.
Our suitcases would be at our hotel when we got there. You'd set your suitcase out in front of the door at the hotel you were leaving, and then it would be in your hotel room when you got to the next town. It was like a traveling country club.
Oh my, it's like the complete opposite of a jazz tour, like you have to schlep everything
Absolutely,
around.
the complete opposite of a
Oh
Tower
my,
of Power tour.
yeah,
Tower of Power tours are sort of rough and tumble, and this was very smooth.
amazing.
It's amazing what money can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's how those top flight artists manage to stay in the business as long as they do, because they're not schlepping their own stuff around, and they're not missing sleep because they had to get up at 5 a.m. to catch a train.
Yeah, so true, actually. Yeah. You worked with David also later, right? On many records,
I
I
did
think.
two. Let's see. I
I
did
think it's
three
three
albums.
records, or
Heathen. I did Tonight, and I
yeah,
did
tonight.
Don't Let Me Down. I guess are I can't. I think those are the three titles.
Yeah.
I did one of them up in with the Borneo Horns up in La Studio in Canada, and then one in New York, and then the other one in a small studio in New York.
Mm,
All of them with the other two saxophone players, and augmented by a brass player in some cases.
yeah, interesting. Did he leave you a lot of freedom when you were working? I mean, like, or
Yeah, I did the arrangements in the La Studio place. I did the arrangements overnight at the studio, and brought them in the next day.
okay,
And he had a large hand in it. He would make changes and that sort of thing. You expect that. It's a collaborative thing again. And then the session in New York, I wrote the charts at home and brought them in, and we made changes in them on the session.
okay,
Heathen was a little bit different. We talked about it beforehand, and I had a pretty good idea of what he wanted, and I think that one didn't have that many changes to it.
interesting.
Um,
Yeah, and then you end up on a Madonna gig as well, right? And everything.
that was the Nile Rodgers project.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. You knew him.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Nile was familiar with Tower of Power, as you would expect. Sort of similar genres, music.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. It's amazing. You caught that studio train. I mean, the studio recordings. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it was the
incredible.
time where that was happening, where
Yeah.
being a studio musician was something you could make a livelihood with.
Yeah.
It was a little spotty. By the time I got here, it was starting to become on a downward trend. But I was on an ascendant path, so it looked like it was just getting better all the time, just slower than it would have been had I been in town 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
But you saw everybody in these sessions. Kenny Barron would play piano on dates for
Really.
commercials. I played with Ron Carter, played with Grady Tate,
Oh
and
man. Okay.
great jazz musicians would be playing on these, car commercials. Um, you know,
That's so
but
insane. Grady Tate playing like a Mercedes or whatever
yeah, yeah,
commercial.
yeah, yeah.
That's like what?
Yeah,
Wow.
well, it was a good way to supplement your income, and it didn't take very much time. Sessions were booked an hour with a possible 20 minutes overtime, and you showed up, you read the chart down, you did a few takes, and you were out of there.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
and
perfect.
the residual checks would just keep coming in over the years. If they, as long as the commercial stayed on the air, you would get paid. So
That's so important.
it was a great way for musicians who were easily uh, quick studies and that sort of thing. Jazz musicians tend to be very intuitive about that sort of thing. Plus, they often have training for sight reading and that
But
sort of
yeah,
thing. And so you would expect it. But symphonic players I played with as well. People from the New York Philharmonic would come in and do recording dates, and it was pretty exciting. It was very cut and dried. But there was a lot of um, um, talent in the room,
yeah,
and a high level of intuition going on, and it was interesting. The studios were so booked that it was the rule of thumb was commercials in the daytime and records at night, because the commercial clients could pay more money than the record industry could. But the whole thing was sort of sliding as time went on,
yeah.
and it disintegrated. Um,
Still amazing. Yeah, that's
it was
yeah,
an interesting moment to be involved with things. I've been very fortunate. I was in San Francisco in the Bay Area in the '60s when all that happened, and caught the tail end of the New York recording scene and the downtown music scene here,
as well. Yeah, exactly.
as well.
Yeah.
Uh,
Where does did you like the band leading aspect? You did the Borneo Horns, what, mid 80s, 87, I think, that record with Howard Johnson and Dave Bargeron. And
yeah.
did you
Uh,
like becoming a band leader and leading your own group? How did that evolve, actually? I mean,
Well, the Borneo Horns was the first group that I really led, and it just came about as an aspect of the composing that I was doing.
yeah,
Working at Saturday Night Live is a little bit different. I do much of the writing there, not all of it, but a lot of it. And I got my job there. I was hired as a soloist and as an arranger. So I was doing a lot of the same things I'd done as a composer with respect to notation and teaching the band how to play the music. And that's pretty much what band leading is. It's like
exactly. Yeah,
there's the business part of it. There's the hiring and firing and the coordination and all those things, which I think I figured out on by observation. Emilio Castillo was a very, 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 very talented band leader. He knew how to treat people. He knew the kind of respect you need to give musicians, and that you want to give musicians. And he understood that it was a collaborative enterprise, and
yeah,
that you have to go along to get along, and it's a lot of give and take and all that. And he understood that people had to shine and had to have opportunities to display their talent. But he's also very strict. You had to be at rehearsal on time. You had to know your music. You couldn't fake stuff. You had to learn the parts and all that. So I inherited that by osmosis. I had a good example for band leading with him, and I try to use what I learned from that to do what I do. And the business part is really complicated in network television, but it's another learning process that you have to go through. But I was fortunate that I wasn't immediately the band leader. I was 10 years as a sideman, and I got a
yeah.
chance to examine it. I made really good friends with one of the music directors. Cheryl Hardwick was a close friend of mine, and is a close friend of mine. And she um, um, was very helpful in guiding me through the learning process of how to integrate music with the comedy and
Yeah,
how to integrate myself into the culture there. So I worked for 5 years after I became band leader and music director with her, counseling me. So it was, most things in music are apprenticeship type of
absolutely. Yeah.
situation. You learn on the bandstand, and you learn in the writing room. You learn with the people that you're working with by observation. And I had very good examples to follow. So
Yeah. How did the process go? Like, of- you know, playing the opening theme, and then like, I mean, how did like usually the process go of SNL?
well, it's a writer driven show
Yeah.
with it. The host is the most important part of the show, and then the writers produce their own sketches. So you start the week out with a meeting with the host and the writers, and the cast. The cast does a lot of the writing as well. And the writers have to learn to write for the cast members, and everybody has their own voice. So it's another very collaborative
Yeah.
enterprise. And so there's a big meeting on Monday. Then the writers write all their material on Tuesday overnight. Wednesday there's a giant table read where there's like 100 people listening in on the reading of the scripts, and there's usually like 40, 39 to 45 scripts
Oh
that you
man.
read.
Oh, okay.
And there's the musicians assemble music for, or, the music directors assemble music for that business. I haven't been doing that for a while. I administer it. I take notes and all that sort of stuff, and help make decisions about how it's going to be produced.
Yeah.
But I've stopped writing those things for the most part. I did for quite a while, and that happens on Wednesday. And Wednesday you decide at the end of the day you decide what's going to get produced and what. And then we decide how we're going to produce it. And then Thursday and Friday they do camera blockings with a skeleton crew of musicians if they need them. Either it's a recording or it's a couple of musicians. And then Saturday we rehearse in the morning from 10:30 to 12:30, and then we do sketches if they need us during the course of the day. And then we rehearse the opening title music with the host doing their monologue, and then we do a dress rehearsal, and then we do a broadcast. So you get up early in the morning, and you're still up at 1 in the morning.
Yeah,
It's a long day.
that's a long day.
It's a long day. It's a long week.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it's well,
It's a lot of organizing. Mostly logistics. The schedules keep changing because they're trying to produce 2 or 3 films a week at the same time, and cast members are involved in that, so they can't be at the rehearsals. So you have to. The line producer has to organize the schedule around a lot of different factors, and so everything's in flux, and the musicians are often left waiting. It's like doing film. If you've ever done film,
no. I mean, I've done some documentary from home soundtracks, but that's completely different. So yeah,
yeah, but like if you if you're ever on a film shoot, most of your time is spent waiting, and there's an awful lot of waiting on the show. It's just the way it goes.
yeah,
We're making a comedy show. The music is an integral part of it, and it's a very important supportive aspect of the music to the show. But the most important thing is the comedy.
yeah. Yeah. But it helps, like you know, that you have such a family of musicians, because all these guys have been Sean Pelton, James Genos. They've been doing this like as a rhythm
Yeah,
section for more than 25 years or something. Or you and Steve Turre has been there like what 40 years, and so
40 years. Yeah.
yeah, that's incredible. I mean, because then whatever you play, it's immediately like okay,
Yeah, the
and
musicians are fantastic.
yeah,
The intuition is unbelievable. We'll if something goes wrong, we ignore whatever direction we've had and we go and we play the right thing. And it's uncanny how that happens. Something will crash and burn live on the show, and rather than go with the plan, we go with what needs to happen.
mm,
A line will get dropped, and it could be catastrophic, but we or script got rewritten between dress and air, and nobody got the note. You know, it doesn't often happen, but it does
of course,
occasionally
yeah,
happen. And when it does, the band plays the right thing
yeah,
because they know what the right thing is, and that's what it is. So, but without ever talking about it, we don't even discuss it after it happened. We just move on.
that's
But I
amazing.
think it's because there's a lot of great jazz musicians in the band. I mean, they're improvisers by they're everybody in the band is an improviser.
Yeah, band leaders and composers and everything. I mean, it's like
Everybody's an
yeah,
improviser, and we all understand the nature of that. So we can sort of freely float and make it work.
yeah, so beautiful. Yeah. I always
It
thought,
is it is it is beautiful. It's like there's not that many situations where you have people playing together for 40 years. Tower of
definitely.
Power is an example of that. And do you know the group Umo? You know Umo from Finland? They're the
Mm.
sort of the Helsinki national.
Or yeah, orchestra. Yeah, of course. Yeah, sure, sure.
I
Yeah.
did an album. I did an album with them, and they've been together for almost that long, since the '70s or maybe the late
Mm.
'60s. And they have they've changed membership over the years, but there's a core group that
Six. Yeah.
there's people that have been there for 15 or 20 years at any given point, you
Yeah.
know. And it has the same, or the group El Gran Combo. Do you know El Gran Combo?
No,
It's a
no,
salsa group
no.
out of Puerto Rico. They're still around, I think, and they've been around since the 60s.
Wow. Modern jazz quartet. That I mean, they've been together for a long time, right?
Yeah,
Or
when you have
Oregon, like Paul
yeah,
McCandless and Ralph Downer. They kind of
yeah. That aspect of collaboration that happens over the course of time is a beautiful thing, and I respect it a great deal. It's
mm, there is a beauty to it. Yeah, it's like watching basketball.
yeah, it's the same thing,
You
same
know,
thing.
Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan of the Bulls. They were like,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a nice thing to see that musically beautiful, man. Yeah. Well, Lenny, what are your plans for this year still? I mean, will you do some gigs? Are you still sometimes coming to Europe to do something or?
I haven't been doing that lately. I've been, you know, taking time for myself, and I practice a lot. Um, I'm, imagining how the season is going to go next year at the show, trying to figure that out. Spending time with my grandchildren, and my wife. We have a home in California that we're out here right now. It was built in 1949, and it's got
Wow.
it needs some wiring redone and things like that, and new kitchen, and you have to shine up the old car. It doesn't take care of itself. You have to take care of it. So
Yeah, yeah,
um,
beautiful, fantastic. Well, if you're ever gonna be in Europe, drop me a line. We'll
I
get
will.
together for a glass of wine or something. So
Yeah. If I'm ever in Slovenia,
yeah, yeah, Slovenia. So I'm very close to Vienna, so it's
what language is it? Slovenian?
Slovenian. Yeah, it's only 2 million of us, so we're
Oh,
like we're like a neighborhood of Los Angeles or something.
is it a Slavic language? Is
Yeah,
it?
yeah. It's like the same group as Czech and Croatian and all
Uh,
these languages. So it's a
mhm.
completely different, separate group, like from Germanic languages or Romanic languages. So
Is it closer to Russian or to
yeah,
German?
yeah. Oh, way closer to Russian.
Do you use a Cyrillic alphabet or the
No, no,
Roman
no.
alphabet?
Not Cyrillic. Only we have normal, so our Latin.
Latin,
Yeah, yeah. So
and it's different from Romania, which is a Romance language.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, everyone, because we're so close to Austria, everyone in my region where we live, we all speak German
Hmm.
because Austria is so close, and English, obviously, everyone learns here, and so
Yeah,
it's
but you have your own language.
yeah, 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 absolutely. We're quite proud of it, you know. It's only
And,
2 million of us, but we're
and they teach it in the schools.
yeah,
And
yeah, absolutely.
is there a standard second language that the kids learn?
Yeah, everyone learns in school already. Kids start learning English when they're 8,
Oh,
and then German, either German or French when they're 12. So everyone speaks two
it's like
languages.
the Finns are the same way. The Finns teach
Yep.
English from about second or third grade,
Yeah, exactly.
and their language also is very rarefied. There's
Completely different. Yeah.
only the Finns and the Estonians can understand each other.
True. Finnish, Finn-Ugro,
Ugric,
Hungarian group, Hunger group. Yeah, they're the same.
yeah, Finno-Ugric.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's quite interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, it is interesting.
that's nice. Yeah.
We don't have that here.
No, I know, I know. When I visited the States, like the first time, I told people where I'm from, and they were like, "What? Slovenia? Well, what is that?" I was like, "Well, former Yugoslavia." Ah, okay. That rang a bell sometimes, but
Yeah,
uh,
here there used to be a lot of dialect, but because of television and the way that language has become uniform,
yep.
a lot of the dialects have disappeared, or are on the verge of disappearing. And there used to be music dialects too that are disappearing. When I would travel around with Tower Power in the 70s, you'd listen to the radio and you could hear a different sound of the different DJs, and you'd hear a different sound of the different uh, local rhythm and blues bands that had their own particular sound. And
Hmm.
a lot of that's changed. There used to be like a Miami sound
Absolutely. Yeah.
and an Atlanta sound and a
Detroit sound. Yeah. Like
Detroit sound,
yeah, yeah.
and it was fascinating. It was very special to find yourself amongst people that spoke or played a different language. And
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I noticed that in Europe, like in free jazz, you know, like or improvised music, like English had a completely different language than the Germans, the improv scene, and or the
interesting.
Scandinavians, or you know, yeah.
Have you ever done a Cobra?
No, no, you did it?
I did one, yeah.
Oh my, how was that like?
I did it with Zorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
Hmm.
It was really fun. Yeah, it was really fun. I love that music.
Oh man,
Um,
he was yeah, yeah, such an integral part of the independent scene. I mean, in New York.
well,
Yeah,
it was really fun. Um, it's fun to get around imaginative people and play. You
yeah,
know,
absolutely.
not enough of that. I don't think the audience is really appreciated very often. Uh,
Yeah. Well, it's yeah, I agree actually, but yeah, it's a different.
you have to give them something to hold on to.
Absolutely. Yeah, in improvised music, that's many times.
Well, my saxophone teacher was an avant-garde saxophone player, a guy named Bert Wilson.
Mm.
He has a couple. There's some YouTube videos of him if you want to
Oh,
check it
really?
out.
What's his name? Bert Wilson.
Bert Wilson,
Oh, I have to check it out. Okay.
Bert Wilson.
Okay.
Um,
Don't know.
he was he was a paraplegic. He had polio when he was young, um, and um, and played saxophone from a wheelchair his whole
Oh,
life. But he was friends with Sonny Simmons and Barbara Donald, and uh, it was around
that scene.
Jimmy Zitro. It was there was a Bay Area free jazz scene for a while, and he lived down the street from me. And I used to hear these amazing sounds coming out of his window. And he had a second floor apartment, and And one day, one of the guys, one of the players, saw me standing on the street listening to him, invited me to come up, and I met him, and he was very, very, very nice. And but we would play together sometimes. It would just be transcendent kind of experience. It's really, really wonderful.
Yeah.
The most important skill musicians have to have is listening. And I think that improvisers, free improvisers, are the best listeners. They really that's the key ingredient to their whole skill set is listening.
Yeah, absolutely. And intuition, like what we mentioned today already so many times.
Yeah.
Like just where to go and how to react, and yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. Beautiful. Sir, I'll leave you a nice day in California. I mean, you're just starting the day, I think, actually. So.
Yeah, you're at night.
Yeah, we have 9 p.m. here, so our daughter went to bed, and I'm.
My daughter and her family, her 2 kids and her partner are in London now. So they're similar time zone.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Well, Lenny, if you're ever around in Europe, drop me a line,
Okay,
really, or
I will. I have your contact.
hope we get together one day and play
All
or
right.
enjoy a dinner or something. So
Yes. All right.
cool. Thanks so much for finding the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. All right.